So you're watching this video to decide whether or not to get a rescue dog, and it's a really difficult decision to make. Nobody can prepare you for what having a rescue dog can be like, and it can be a really difficult decision. There are lots of things that you have to take into account, not just your house and whether you've got enough time for a rescue dog, but there are all sorts of different factors involved. I'm just going to talk about my personal experience and the things that I needed to consider before having a rescue dog. And regardless of whether you're in the UK, I'm based in the UK, but if you're in places like America or other places around the world, there's still the same considerations that you'd have to give to think about before deciding to have a rescue dog. So if you're thinking about having a rescue dog and you're looking into it at the moment, I'm going to give you some of the key things to think about and then talk about the process that we went through to have our rescue dog, and the fact that I didn't actually intend to have a rescue dog in the first place. My intention wasn't even to get another dog at all. The decision almost found us, and I'm going to talk about that later on in the video. Okay, so first of all, I've been on YouTube for about 6 months now. I set up the channel originally to post just some content of me enjoying my dogs, but I also did have a pug. He was 10 years old at the time when we decided to have Max. Unfortunately, he passed away in June, which is very sad. I thought moving forward we would focus more on Max as our rescue dog and maybe kind of cross over into some more long form content YouTube, because the things that we went through as pet owners deciding whether to have a rescue dog and which rescue dog to choose and what considerations to think about are probably the same things that other people will be thinking about before they're having a rescue dog as well. So I'm just going to get straight into it, and the first thing I want to talk about is how the decision to actually have a rescue dog came about. So first of all, the intention wasn't to have a rescue dog. We had our pug. He was 10 years old. He was actually quite a poorly dog. He had something called idiopathic epilepsy, which means there's no known cause for it. This meant really that we weren't really considering on having any other dogs anyway, because we required quite a lot of veterinary care, a lot of medication 3 times a day. So actually having any other dogs was out of the question. But what we found was our experience of having a dog, because of him being so poorly, wasn't really like your traditional experience of having a dog, because he used to sleep all day. He was quite heavily sedated, so we didn't really have your average normal dog experience. So what happened was, one day, me and my daughter were actually going to a pet shop, a well-known UK store, just buy some just average pet supplies for our pug, Stan. Went along with my daughter, and she's 15 at the time, just minding our own business, going around the pet shop. And we were at the tills, and there was a lady there with a shopping cart, like a shopping trolley, and it had 2 little Shih Tzu dogs in there. This lady was representing a small dog rescue, I should say. And there was one of the dogs that was up for adoption, and she was really cute, a little black Shih Tzu. We were really interested in, well, first of all, it was my daughter that was really taken with this dog, and she was holding her and cuddling her, and I actually looked at this dog and I thought, oh my gosh, she's so sweet. Could we open up our hearts to and our home to perhaps having another dog? So the thought crept in of maybe we could have another dog. Went home, spoke to my husband about it, showed him the pictures, and he actually was quite up for the idea. And we thought about whether we could open our home to another dog, and we decided to go ahead with doing the application. Went online, filled out the application form for this little really sweet black Shih Tzu. Lots of questions about things to do with our home, how many children we had, what times of day that we're in, do we work, all those kinds of questions, and just waited to hear back. Unfortunately, by the time we heard back, the little dog had already been adopted. There was obviously lots of applications for the dog, and she had already been adopted. And then all of a sudden, I just felt really sad that this dog that we were thinking of adopting then wasn't available to adopt anymore. Me and my husband had another conversation, decided to have a look around at different rescue centres in the local area that we could maybe consider having a look at different dogs that we could possibly give a home to. So that is how the decision actually came about. It wasn't that we were intending to get a rescue dog at that point. That wasn't the intention at all. It kind of happened by accident. And then we realised that we would like to give a rescue dog a home, but without realising that's what we were planning to do to start with. So we started looking around at local rescue centres, having a look at different dogs that were available for adoption. And we stumbled across a website. I'm not going to name the name of the rescue just in case, because they haven't given us permission to mention them, so I'm just going to keep that separate for now. But we found a rescue place that had a variety of different dogs. Now, how do you even know what kind of dog that you were looking for? Now, we didn't actually really know. We didn't know whether we wanted a small dog. We didn't know if we wanted a big dog. Obviously, the initial interest at the pet shop was the Shih Tzu, which are very small. We didn't know what age of dog or anything like that. We just knew that we had the intention of giving a dog that needed a home. There are quite a few things to consider. For example, can you cope with a dog that likes to bark a lot? So there are lots of things to consider. So these are just some of the things that we had to look at when we were looking into having a rescue dog. So number one, have you got the time to have a rescue dog with the care and attention that they need? So rescue dogs need a lot of time to transition, as does any dog, from coming from rescue into your home. So you can't just go and pick a rescue dog up one day and then the next day you can just go out to work and leave it all day long. You can't do that. So they need a lot of time to adjust. They need a lot of attention. They need a lot of awareness about reading their body language and just be there for them for the things that they need. So that's one thing to consider. The second thing is, have you got enough financial stability to, number one, give a donation to the rescue centre? A lot of rescue centres will ask for an adoption fee. In our case, it was £580. That included the microchip transfer and the paperwork, and the money then goes back into the rescue centre to help with the work that they do. So that's one thing. Also, have you got enough financial stability to pay for veterinary costs if you need it? So if your dog is poorly for any reason, unexpectedly dogs get ill. As you know, if you've already got a dog or not, vet bills can be very expensive. They can range from anything from £60 if you're in the UK, it's around about $100 if you're in America, or depending on where you live, up to, depends if they need an operation or anything like that, it can be thousands and thousands of pounds or dollars, again depending on what the operation is that that dog might be needing. So you need to consider those things. Have you got the money to just suddenly pay £2,000 or dollars if you need to? The other thing to consider is getting insurance, depending on the age of the dog. Some pet insurance places will not insure you for certain breeds of dog as well, if they are prone to certain conditions. So in our case, the dog that we adopted, he was 5 years old. We managed to get insurance, no problem, for the lifetime of the dog. Although some insurance places, they say lifetime of the dog, but then actually after a few years, there are certain things that they won't cover, so you need to read the small print very carefully. Some insurance companies do not cover you for all sorts of things like emergency care or existing conditions and things like that. So you really need to know if any of the dogs that you're looking at have got any pre-existing medical conditions. With some rescue dogs, they have conditions that maybe you don't even know about at the time, or they might have existing conditions that they've already got, I don't know, like a heart murmur or a skin condition that needs ongoing medical care, and you need to take that into account as well. You also need to make sure you can afford to feed the dog. If you are looking at raw feeding your dog, it can be quite expensive. Well, any type of dog food can be expensive. It depends what you want to feed your dog. We started off with the food that was already being given at the rescue centre, which was a little bit cheaper, but we made a decision to put our rescue dog onto raw food, which can cost about £3 a day. I don't know what the equivalent of that is in dollars, but about £3 UK a day. Plus then on top of that, he has natural treats, which we buy, and they can be quite expensive to buy as well. So again, just making sure you can afford to feed your dog. We have to pay, we don't have to, but I choose to pay for secure walking facilities. So we take our rescue dog between 1 and 3 times a week for a secure walk. The reason for that is because he can be extremely reactive towards people and other dogs, which we didn't know at the time, or didn't know to the extent at the time when we had him, but that's a whole other story. Another consideration is what your back garden is like. Have you got a secure back garden or backyard where your dog can go out in the event of you not being able to take it out for a walk? Are the fences secure? Are the fences high enough? Some dogs can jump really, really high, over 6 foot in some cases, depending on the breed that you have, making sure the fences are high enough. In our case, we had to prove how high the fences were. We had to measure them, take photos and send those into the rescue. Is the gate lockable? Are the fences high enough Do you have any furniture that a dog could jump onto and then jump over a fence? If so, you need to take that into account, because you might need to do some prep work before you can have a rescue dog, or some rescues will not allow you to have them. A big one for most families, especially if you've got children, the age of your children. Some rescues are really strict about the age of the children before they will let you have any of the rescue dogs. So the rescue that we were in communication with, if you had children under 12, it was very unlikely that they would allow you to have a rescue dog. Some of the dogs, it was stipulated that no children or no other dogs could be in the property, and they had to be the only dog in the property, and maybe with an older couple, or a couple without children, or not necessarily a couple, but or a person without children. You have to really consider that. Now, if you've got young children, this might be another reason for going with a breeder over and above a rescue. It doesn't mean that rescue dogs can't be great with children, they absolutely can, but you don't know the background of those dogs, which is one of the main difficulties I think that people worry about having a rescue dog. But don't let that put you off. But if you do have very young children, you do have to consider that, because if you don't know the background of the dog, if it's got the capability to bite a child, if you've got a very small child in your home, that could obviously have devastating consequences for both your family and for the dog, who then might have to be returned to the rescue, or worse than that, depending on how severe a bite was, potentially put to sleep. So you don't want to put yourselves or a dog in that position. So if in doubt, speak to the rescue. They usually, on the application form, they will ask quite detailed information about you and your family to establish whether your home could be suitable before they then book a home visit to come round and speak to you in person. Now, word of warning, if any rescue is not prepared to do a home visit, I personally wouldn't have a dog from that rescue centre. If they're going to release a dog to a family without actually vetting the home first, then that's an irresponsible rescue, in my opinion. So before we had our rescue dog, the manager of the rescue came out to see us. She spoke to us in person. She looked around our house. She didn't go upstairs or anything, but the downstairs area, the areas where the dog would be, she came, had a look in our home, our garden, had a real good look to make sure it was going to be a suitable place for a rescue dog to be, making sure they got a space in the home where they could have time out if they need it, just to have their own space, and making sure the garden was secure, and just getting a general feel for us and the home, which in my opinion is a responsible thing for a rescue to do. If a rescue are quite happy for you to go there and pick a dog and not even ask hardly any questions, that's not good. All right, then they have responsibilities as a rescue to make sure that that rescue dog is going to a suitable home, and that the people can cater for the needs of the dog. Now, in terms of deciding which type of dog to go for, now we'd never had a rescue dog before, ever. So we genuinely didn't know. There were so many dogs on the website. We were having a look at lots of different pictures of dogs. You cannot go from just a picture alone. It has to be matched with what you can offer a dog and the needs of that dog. We were quite open to having an older dog. I didn't really mind how old it was. Obviously, we didn't really want one that's specifically very old or end of life, although some people do rescue a dog on that basis, and that's really commendable to do that. We wanted a slightly younger dog. We didn't really want a puppy, because we just didn't really want the puppy stage with toilet training and everything like that. So we just wanted a slightly older dog, perhaps a dog that maybe, I'm a bit of a sucker for dogs that maybe nobody else wants. That's not always the case. Some people do have a specific breed in mind. Some people do have a specific temperament in mind. Some people want a young dog as a puppy that they can train themselves, which is fine if that's what you want. We purposely didn't want a puppy. We did want an older dog. So we were looking at more of the backstories as to these dogs and how long they'd been in the kennels, what they needed. And we came across one dog in particular that just caught my eye, because there was a really cute photo of him with some reindeer antlers on, which it was on the run up to Christmas. It was about 6 weeks away from Christmas time, and it was just super cute picture of him with reindeer antlers, so I fell for that. But I didn't want to be bamboozled just by a picture. So we read the backstory, read the information. As we were reading more about his story, we realised that he was a Romanian rescue dog. He was found in a field when he was 6 months old, and then he was brought over to the UK when he was about 18 months old. I think he'd been fostered for a short time in a family over here, and then he was back at the rescue for reasons that we weren't quite sure what had happened. Something along the lines of that he didn't get on with the other dogs in the foster home. We couldn't really read into that too much, but we weren't quite sure. But he had been then in the rescue for 3.5 years. 3.5 years this dog had been in rescue kennels. Imagine that, that's never been inside a home then for the best part of 4 years. So that was kind of it for us. We knew that he was a dog that we wanted to give a second chance to. So we made an appointment to go to the rescue to meet Max, and we took our other dog with us because they said that because you've got another dog, our pug, Stan at the time, we can't consider having a dog from rescue unless we know that your dog will be okay with our dog, the rescue dog, and vice versa. So we took Stan with us. Stan is he was very kind of non-threatening. He's a little bit dopey, a bit sleepy because he's medicated and sedated. So he just kind of stood there really not paying much attention. And Max came and had a look at Stan, sniffed all around him, seemed completely comfortable with Stan, didn't really bother with him, didn't seem threatened at all. And then we went for a short walk around the rescue centre with the managers of the rescue centre and the rescue dog. And then we were offered the lead to be able to then take it in turns, me and my husband, to take the dog for a walk around the rescue centre, which we did. He walked fine on the lead. He seemed really interested. He was nuzzling us. He was kind of leaning into us. He was sniffing us, showing lots of interest. And he just seemed like a dog that could really warm to. So we went home, had a conversation about it, and then made the decision that yes, he was going to be the one that we were going to give a home to, and we were really excited. So we went home, had a good chat about it, had a talk about the pros and the cons, and decided that yes, we were definitely going to go ahead and give Max a chance. So we were offered then an appointment to go, I can't remember the time scales, but it was within a couple of weeks, to do a trial session with Max where we could pick him up and then he could come back to our house to have like the afternoon with us, just for a couple of hours, just to see how we get on, which is very trusting of the rescue to do that. And we really appreciated that time that he was allowed to come. So he came to us for an afternoon. We then took him back to the rescue. It went really well. And then they said, would you like to have him again the next day? So we said, yeah, that would be great. So the plan was to build him up over a period of time to come and be with us and just to see, be guided by him really. So then picked him up the next day, brought him home, and then I was due to take him back to the rescue that night. So I took him back, and then the manager of the rescue came out. She had a chat to me and she said, how's he got on? He'd got on really, really well. And she said at that point, so do you want to take him and have him overnight? I wasn't expecting that. But because he settled so well during the day, she said, well, we might as well just try it sooner rather than later and see how he goes on an overnight stay. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine, we do that. So we drove him all the way back home. And the rescue centre was about 30 minutes drive from my house. So we had driven all the way there, so I drove him all the way back. So it was like an hour round trip. We thought, why not? If we're going to have him, we need to see how it's going to go overnight. So we had him overnight. And then it felt fine to actually have him in the home. Had a chat with the manager at the rescue, and she was totally happy that he settled on that first night. I say settled, obviously he was still very nervous, but on the whole it was all right and good enough for us to agree to, yes, he's definitely the dog for us. So that's what happened. We finished completing all paperwork. The manager of the rescue then came out to see him in the home with us as well, and just to make sure he's settled. She brought him some treats. So the manager of the rescue had come out to see us and observed us. Yeah, the decision was that we were going to adopt Max as a permanent dog in our home, which was really lovely. So we were really happy, and it was on the few days before Christmas, and we decided to go ahead with the adoption, which we were really happy about. So after that, all the paperwork was completed, and then Max came to live with us. It was good. I'm not going to lie, there were some challenging points within those first few days. So I think our first mistake was the fact that it was so close to Christmas. And what happened was at Christmas time, we had visitors that came into the house for Christmas, which was quite difficult because obviously Max was just trying to settle in with us. And then we introduced visitors into the mix, which was probably a bit too soon. On our part, we didn't really realise. We just took it that he would be okay with it, and he wasn't. It's quite difficult, but I will be doing a separate video in terms of the challenges that I had with Max as a rescue dog, because it hasn't all been plain sailing at all. So I'm not going to flower it up that getting a rescue dog is, you know, easy, they'd settle in with you straight away, there's not going to be any issues, because that's not the case. There can sometimes be some really big challenges with having rescue dogs that just come out of the rescue environment that they've known for so long and then just come into a home environment that they're absolutely not used to. So I'll do a separate video on that to explain some of the challenges that we faced. However, long story short, we stuck with it over a period of time. He's been with us for 18 months now, so it has had a happy ending, but there were lots of times, believe me, when it was very challenging, to the point where we thought we were going to have to return him to the rescue. But that's a separate video and I'll talk about that another time. But please don't let that put you off considering having a rescue dog. It's just, these are the things that you need to think about before even looking into having a rescue dog, and whether you can prepare yourself for some of these challenges. It is worth it. It's definitely worth some of the sacrifices that you have to make, but it has to be a serious consideration. It can't just be something that you just decide on a whim that you're going to get a rescue dog because you want to give a dog a home. It's not as easy as that. Lots of things to consider. I hope the points there in the video have helped you to think about whether you are in a position where you could possibly take a rescue dog. If so, definitely look in the local rescues within your area, ask them all of the questions, do your research, and good luck with any decisions that you make. If you've got any further questions, or if you'd like me to make certain videos on something to do with our rescue dog experience, please just mention it in the comments, and I'll see if I can do another video specifically talking about that people might request in the future, and that will help me plan some of my content ideas as well. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.